The obsession. You can't explain. There's someone you can't stop thinking about, not because they did something extraordinary, not because they're constantly in your life, but because they live rent-free in the corners of your mind. At night, in silence, in the spaces between distractions. You think, why them? You've tried to let go, you've reasoned with yourself, you've told your heart to move on. But their presence lingers. Their name echoes in the places your logic can't reach, and deep down something whispers, this is more than longing. Carl Jung would not call this obsession, he would call it a projection of the soul. When the psyche sees a part of itself in another, especially a part that we've buried, denied, or forgotten, it clings. Not out of weakness, but out of recognition. You're not obsessed with them. You're obsessed with the energy they awaken in you. They've become a mirror, reflecting something sacred, something lost, something waiting to be remembered. Jung believed these connections are rarely accidents. He called them psycho-spiritual activations. Moments when another person awakens your unconscious, not with their presence, but with their symbolic meaning. Maybe they represent the love you never gave yourself, or the freedom you crave, or the wound you've tried to forget. The more you try to detach without understanding, the stronger the bond pulls, because the soul doesn't want you to forget. It wants you to see. This is not about chasing someone, it's about tracing the thread they've illuminated inside of you. Ask yourself, what part of me awakens when I think of them? What feelings do they stir that I've buried in silence? The obsession is not about the person, it's about the story. The inner script you've unconsciously tied to their image. It's about the mystery within yourself that they, unknowingly, have unlocked. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are awakening. You are being invited inward. To feel this strongly is not a flaw. It is a message, a calling from your own depths. You don't need to fix the obsession. You need to follow it, not toward them, but toward yourself. Let the obsession become a compass, not pointing outward but inward, toward the unmet parts of your soul that are crying to be remembered. This is not madness. This is meaning, and the beginning of something real. Jung's view on psychic energy. Imagine this, a thought crosses your mind and suddenly your mood shifts. A memory resurfaces and your chest tightens. A dream lingers in your soul like smoke you can't quite touch. To Carl Jung, these weren't just fleeting experiences. They were evidence of energy, not the kind measured in volts or watts, but something deeper, more ancient, more human. Jung called it psychic energy, a subtle force that animates the soul, fuels our desires, shapes our dreams, and even binds us to others in invisible ways. He believed your thoughts and emotions weren't just in your head. They were dynamic, energetic fields that carried weight, motion, and momentum. Each idea, each emotion, each image you conjure is a charge, a vibration, a wave that flows through the psyche, either integrating or fragmenting the self. When you fall in love, when you obsess, when you dream about someone night after night, Jung wouldn't dismiss it as imagination or coincidence. He would ask, where is your psychic energy going? Because wherever your energy flows, your life begins to follow. This is why a fleeting interaction can haunt you for years. Why an unresolved heartbreak can drain your vitality. Why a powerful symbol in a dream can electrify your waking world. Psychic energy is not bound by logic. It's not limited to the conscious mind. It moves through intuition, memory, symbol, archetype, and most importantly, relationship. When you think of someone constantly, when you feel their presence even in their absence, when you sense them in your dreams, your body, your emotional waves, Jung would suggest that a psychic link may have formed. This doesn't mean it's romantic, or destined, or even mutual. But it does mean there's something important your psyche is working through. Something that person represents, evokes, or mirrors back to you. Jung described this psychic energy as libido. Not just sexual, but spiritual, emotional, creative energy. It seeks to flow toward wholeness, integration, understanding. And when it becomes blocked, repressed, or fixated, that's when we suffer. Not because something is wrong, but because something vital is trapped. If your energy is constantly circling around one person, one idea, one memory, It's not just obsession. It's unresolved psychic energy trying to complete a circuit. Jung would encourage you to observe the charge. What emotions arise when you think of them? What images come up? What do they symbolize for you? Freedom, rejection, love, loss? These are the clues. This is how you reclaim your energy, not by suppressing it, but by translating it. Because once you understand what the energy is trying to tell you, you begin the sacred work of integration. You return the projection. You recenter your soul. And the obsession, it loses its grip, not because it disappears, but because it has served its purpose. This is how Jung saw the psyche. Not as a machine, but as a living current, a soul with stories, a field of energy always moving toward the truth of who you are. The unconscious attachment, you've deleted their number, you've blocked them, you've said goodbye more times than you can count, but still, they live in your thoughts, haunt your emotions, show up in your dreams like echoes you never meant to keep. Why? Carl Jung would say, because they never really left, not in the way that matters. See, the psyche doesn't operate on time, logic, or distance. It doesn't care if someone is gone from your life. If something in you is unresolved, unmet, or unacknowledged, that thread remains. This is the nature of unconscious attachment. It's not always about the person. It's about what they symbolize. An unmet need, a childhood wound, a mirror of something deep within you that you haven't fully seen. Maybe they gave you a glimpse of being loved without conditions, or triggered the same abandonment you felt at 5 years old. Maybe they awakened a forgotten part of you. The playful one, the sensual one, the vulnerable one. And when they left, it felt like losing yourself. So you keep reaching for them. Not always with your hands, but with your energy, your mind, your memory. You rehearse conversations that never happened. You feel things they'll never know. You carry the weight of a connection that exists in the invisible realm. And the more you try to cut the cord, the tighter it seems to pull. Jung taught that we often project the disowned parts of ourselves onto others, especially those who captivate or devastate us. We don't just fall for a person. We fall for the meaning they carry. That's the secret of unconscious attachment. You're not clinging to them. You're clinging to a piece of your own soul that they awakened. So how do you heal? Not by chasing them, and not by pretending it meant nothing, but by turning inward and asking, what part of me did I give away? What wound did this connection uncover? What part of my story is still aching to be seen, heard, and held? You don't heal unconscious attachments by forgetting. You heal them by remembering, consciously. You retrieve the projection. You reclaim the energy. You stop searching for closure outside, because the closure was always an inner integration. Jung believed the psyche longs for wholeness, and sometimes it uses another person to call you back to yourself. So if you're still tethered to someone who's no longer there, don't rush to sever the tie. Listen to it. Feel its pull. Then gently ask yourself, what part of me is trying to return home through this ache? Because when you follow that thread inward, you begin to unweave the illusion of loss and discover the truth. You were never really attached to them. You were attached to the unfinished part of you they helped you feel. And now, it's time to finish the story. Anima, Animus, and the inner lover. Why does it feel like they complete you? Why does their absence ache deeper than words can say? Not like losing a person, but like being severed from a part of your soul. Carl Jung understood this mystery. He called it the Anima and the Animus, the inner feminine in every man and the inner masculine in every woman. Not gender, not roles, but the buried emotional essence within, the soft, intuitive, feeling soul in him, the focused, penetrating wisdom in her. And here's the secret. We don't just fall in love with people. We fall in love with the mirror of what we've lost inside. The anima in a man might show up in a woman who is wild, nurturing, creative. Not because she's the missing piece, but because she reflects the poetry he buried to become strong. The animus in a woman might appear in a man who is strong, assertive, grounded, not because he is her anchor, but because he evokes the clarity she was never taught to trust in herself. So we become enchanted, obsessed, drawn, not just by them, but by what they awaken. And then the spiral begins. We think we want them, but what we're really yearning for is ourselves, the part we lost, the voice we silenced, the softness we shamed, the strength we doubted. Jung warned that if we do not recognize our inner lover, we will chase it endlessly in the outer world, not for connection, but for completion. We project our soul's missing music onto someone else's face, and when they leave, we don't just grieve the relationship, we grieve the reunion with our own soul that we thought they gave us. But the gift of the Anima and the lesson of the Animus is that they were never outside of you. They only wore a mask long enough to remind you what was sleeping within. So if you're still haunted by a love that doesn't make sense, if you're still drawn to someone you can't forget, ask not what they gave you. Ask what they mirrored. Did they call forth your tears? Did they let your walls fall? Did they make you feel seen, creative, alive? Then maybe, just maybe, they weren't the one. They were the invitation to rediscover the one within. Because love in Jung's eyes was never about possession. It was about recognition of the divine opposite, of your lost soul part, of the lover within who has waited patiently for your return. And when you begin to meet that inner lover, in stillness, in dreams, in creativity and courage, you'll no longer beg for love, you'll become it. You'll realize the love you thought was out there was always trying to lead you home. Synchronicity, when the universe echoes, you think of them. And suddenly their name appears on a billboard. You wake from a dream that felt more real than life. And hours later they text. Coincidence? Or something deeper? Carl Jung called it synchronicity, the strange sacred alignment of inner experience and outer reality. Not random, not causal, but meaningful. He believed these moments are messages, whispers from the unconscious, echoes from the soul, reminding you that the psyche is not confined to your skull. It extends into the fabric of life itself. You are not separate from the world. You are in dialogue with it. When someone leaves a deep imprint on your inner world, you form a kind of psychic field, an energetic tension between the seen and unseen. And in moments of heightened emotion, grief, longing, love, awakening, this field pulses. It pulls strange events toward it. A song, a dream, a name you haven't heard in years. Not to haunt you, but to awaken you, to say, pay attention. This isn't madness, it's meaning. Jung saw synchronicities as cracks in the wall of ordinary perception. Brief moments where the soul pierces through the illusion of randomness and reminds you. You are part of a pattern, a myth, a larger unfolding, and that person you can't stop thinking about. Maybe they're not just a memory, maybe they're a symbol of a lesson, a wound, or a soul thread that is still unraveling. Sometimes we mistake spiritual resonance for romantic destiny. Sometimes we think the universe is pushing us back to someone when it's really pulling us back to ourselves. Synchronicity doesn't always mean go to them. It often means go deeper within. Why did that name trigger your tears? Why did that dream shake you awake? What unspoken feeling is trying to rise? Because the universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in mirrors and signs and sudden shivers that make you stop and wonder, what is this trying to tell me? The ego wants logic. The soul longs for meaning. So the next time the world whispers their name, don't just run toward them. Run toward the message. Ask, what part of me is waking up? What have I left unfinished, unsaid, unfelt? Because synchronicity doesn't come to confuse you. It comes to reunite the fragments of your forgotten self. In that way, what seems like them calling out to you may be your own soul calling you back home. Dreams and symbolic encounters. There are dreams you forget by morning, scattered images fading like mist. But then there are those dreams, the ones that linger, haunt, burn behind your eyes even after waking. You see them there, a familiar face in an unfamiliar place, doing or saying something that feels strangely sacred. Carl Jung didn't see dreams as random. He saw them as letters from the soul, written in the secret language of symbols. And in this language, people aren't always who they appear to be. They're messengers, mirrors, fragments of you. When someone shows up in your dream, especially someone you feel magnetically drawn to, It may not be about them at all. It may be the unconscious reaching toward consciousness, trying to show you what your waking mind refuses to see. You dream of an ex, but it's not about rekindling. It's about reconciling. You dream of a stranger who feels like home, but maybe it's your own inner safety you're longing to find. These are not hallucinations. They are symbolic encounters. The soul's way of saying, there's more beneath the surface. In dreams, the boundaries of ego dissolve. Logic steps aside. The deeper self speaks, and sometimes it takes the form of a lover you lost, or a stranger you've never met, but feel like you've known forever. They hold your hand. They walk away. They smile with sadness. They tell you things your heart already knows. Jung believed that everyone in your dream is an aspect of you, a representation of your emotional landscape. So if someone comforts you in a dream, it may be your own repressed need for tenderness rising to the surface. If someone abandons you, perhaps it's a forgotten fear that still shapes your choices. And when someone you haven't seen in years appears, it might not be about reunion. It might be a symbol of a pattern, a piece of your story still unfinished. You see, the unconscious doesn't care about social rules or time. It cares about truth, emotional truth, symbolic truth. So when the lights go out and the world goes quiet, the inner world lights up. And it doesn't whisper, it speaks. In symbols, in feelings, in scenes that feel more real than real life. Your task isn't to decode it with logic, but to feel it, to honor what arises, to ask, what part of me needed this message? What truth am I ready to see? Because sometimes the soul speaks clearest in sleep. And that person you keep dreaming of, they may not be your destiny. They may be a doorway to healing, to memory, to the hidden self still waiting to be known. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't appear to confuse you, but to wake you. Soul ties or shadow hooks. There are moments when you think of them and your chest tightens, not from joy, but from a strange ache, like a wound trying to remember how it was made. You wonder, is this love? A soul tie? Some higher connection? Or is it something older, quieter, more hidden? Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Sometimes the person you can't let go of is not your destiny, but your mirror, a reflection of your unhealed wound. We romanticize the ache, we call it soulmates. But not all intensity is intimacy. Not all obsession is love. Sometimes it's a shadow hook, a tether made of unmet needs, old abandonment, or the parts of you that were never fully seen. A soul tie is different. It's calm, clear, connective. It feels like resonance, not craving. It deepens your truth, not your confusion. But a shadow hook, it pulls you, it drains you, it keeps you in longing, always reaching for someone who may never reach back. Ask yourself, does this connection help you grow, or just keep you cycling? Do you feel grounded, or do you feel addicted to the high of their attention and the crash of their absence? Often we become psychically entangled with people who activate our unresolved stories. The emotionally unavailable lover may echo the parent who wasn't there. The one who rejects you might embody your inner critic, and suddenly you're not just thinking about them. You're trying to fix something in yourself through someone else. That is the hook. But here's the grace in all of it. Your obsession isn't meaningless. It's directional. It's pointing to a place inside you that still longs to be held, understood, reclaimed. So instead of asking, why can't I stop thinking about them? Try asking, what in me is still undone? What part of me are they reflecting? Because the strongest attachments aren't always to people, but to the emotions we haven't healed. And the moment you see that, the spell begins to break. You don't need to demonize them. You don't need to idealize them. You simply need to see clearly that maybe the ache is yours, and maybe it always was. This is not about cutting ties in bitterness. It's about retrieving your power, calling your energy home, breaking the loop of seeking wholeness outside yourself when your soul is whispering, it's time to return inward. Because love doesn't hook, it holds, and true connection never comes at the cost of losing yourself. The energetic cord theory, modern Jungian view. Have you ever felt someone pull on your spirit, even though they haven't called, haven't texted, haven't walked through your life in years? Yet they live in your chest, their voice echoes in your mind, their memory lingers like perfume in a room long vacated. Carl Jung might not have used the term energetic chords in the literal sense, but his view of the psyche as a vast interwoven field of archetypes, symbols, and psychic energy suggests something similar. You see, every emotional interaction leaves an imprint, not just in memory, but in psyche, in soul, in energy. When we bond deeply, whether through love, pain, or projection, a psychic cord is formed, invisible but very real. A channel of energy that connects you to them and them to the parts of you that were wide open. Some cords empower. They are made of mutual respect, love, growth. When you think of these people, you feel lighter, as if a part of your soul just smiled. But some cords drain. These are forged in unresolved longing, guilt, control, or the ache of abandonment. You sense it when you feel exhausted after thinking of them. When your inner peace trembles just by hearing their name. That is not just nostalgia, it's a leak in your energetic field. Jung believed in the autonomous power of the unconscious. When we repress, suppress, or deny feelings, they do not disappear. They form patterns. They take shape in our dreams, our obsessions, and sometimes in the cords that silently entangle us. These cords are psychological echoes. They're built from meaning you've assigned, energy you've invested, and identity you've merged with. And here's the truth. You can't cut what you haven't faced. Cord cutting isn't just spiritual ritual, it's psychic accountability. It's asking, what part of me attached to them? What role did they play in my inner story? And most importantly, can I retrieve my energy without resentment, but with reverence? Because every connection, even the painful ones, taught you something. About your needs, your patterns, your boundaries, your deepest longing to be seen. To release a draining cord is not to erase the past, it's to reclaim your future. To call your spirit back from the places you left it, chasing love, chasing closure, chasing yourself in someone else's eyes. You are allowed to heal, you are allowed to sever what suffocates, and you are allowed to reconnect, but only if it nourishes, not depletes. So sit with yourself. Feel into the cords you carry, and ask your soul, which ones still serve my becoming? Because real connection doesn't control, it circulates, and when it's right, it returns to you as life, not loss. How to break or heal the bond. You don't heal a psychic bond by pretending it never happened. You don't break a soul tie by blocking a number, burning a letter, or deleting the photos, not unless the energy behind it is transformed. Carl Jung taught us that what we resist in the unconscious doesn't disappear. It multiplies. It becomes fate. It becomes obsession. It returns as synchronicity, as dreams, as the ache you can't name when you hear a certain song. Healing the bond begins not with suppression, but with integration. Sit with the memory, not to relive it, but to re-own the parts of yourself you gave away. Use active imagination, Jung's sacred practice. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and enter the image. Speak to their energy in your mind's eye. Ask them why they're still here. Listen to what your own soul says in return. Sometimes what keeps us entangled is not love, but an unmet need that we projected onto them. A longing to be seen, to be rescued, to be chosen. Shadow work is the next step. Ask, what did I try to find in them that I've refused to give myself? What wound did they mirror back to me? The answers may sting, but within them is your freedom. Create a ritual of detachment, not out of hate, but out of honor. Light a candle. Write them a letter you never send. Say aloud what you couldn't say in person. Then thank them. Yes, thank them, for being the mirror that revealed your hidden self. Let tears fall if they come. Let silence follow. Let the energy shift. This is not about forgetting. It's about liberating the version of you that believed they were the missing piece. Because the bond you truly seek is the one with your own soul. And when you finally return to yourself, you realize this. You didn't lose love. You lost the illusion of needing someone else to complete you. You're not alone. Why this journey is part of individuation. If you've ever wondered, why can't I stop thinking about them? Am I going crazy? Why does it feel like something deeper is happening? You're not mad. You're awakening. Carl Jung called this the path of individuation, a lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are. And often it begins with rupture, with a soul connection that shatters your ego and stirs your unconscious. These bonds, strange, intense, sometimes painful, are not random. They are soul initiations. They arise to show you what's unlived, unloved, or unseen within, and they are more common than we speak of. Thousands carry these invisible threads, longing in silence, dreaming in confusion, waking in the middle of the night with someone else's name pressed to the walls of their heart. This isn't madness, it's memory. The kind of memory that doesn't come from the mind, but from the soul. You are not alone in this. Many have walked this path before you, through the fire of longing, into the ashes of surrender, and finally into the light of inner union. Use this bond as a mirror. Let it show you your capacity for love, your hidden wounds, your unclaimed beauty. Let it transform you, not into someone else's fantasy, but into your realist self. This journey may isolate you at first, but what feels like aloneness is actually the beginning of reconnection with your own inner opposites, your child self, your shadow, your soul. And one day, perhaps not soon, but surely, you will look back and smile, not because they came back, not because it ended the way you hoped, but because through that bond, you found your wholeness. That's what this has always been about.